Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Pack to Sleeve. My name is Justin, and last week we started a new series that I will try and put up every weekend that goes through the deck I played at any tournaments that weekend. So, most weekends that'll be FNM. I'll go through the deck, talk about the matches briefly, talk of the record, and open any prize packs that I got. And so, if you haven't gathered already from the channel, I love Gruul. I love playing Gruul Aggro. I have a Gruul Commander deck. I play Gruul in Pioneer a bit. I'm working on getting the pieces that I need for Gruul in Modern. But yeah, I just like playing. I really love playing Gruul. I love forcing the opponents to make tough decisions because they're under a lot of pressure. And so, as many of you know, if you play on Arena or you pay attention to the competitive meta, there's a Gruul Adventures list that sees play, and now with Core 21 out, there's a Gruul midrange. I've not had a ton of success with the Gruul Adventures list because at my local store anyway, and because of the amount of sweepers and the fact that a lot of creatures, when they come down, they aren't able to swing and put pressure on the opponents. So I decided to kind of adapt and build my own deck. And so most of these creatures, as you can tell, they come down and they do something. And so they're always able to come down and put pressure on the opponent and force them to make decisions. So in our 1-drop slot, we have Fervent Champion. So if we lead off with the Mountain, we have a 1-drop we can play to put some pressure on them. And it also can make people think, hey, you might be on mono red. However, at our local store, it's pretty small, so most of the people know I've been on Gruul for a little while now. But I've tried a bunch of different things with this list and been tweaking it, and I've really liked having Fervent Champion as an alternate 1-drop, particularly depending on my opening hand to be able to do something. So we have Fervent Champion, play the full 4 of, and the other one, of course, the All-Star green 1-drop of Pelt Collector. Also play the full 4 of those. Pelt Collector, if it's not answered, it can just get out of control. There's plenty of creatures to grow it all the way up to have 3 counters on it to give it trample. Once it has trample, it can just do a lot of work versus blockers. It's also a great target for our finisher Embercleave, which of course most Gruul aggro lists are going to be playing Embercleave. So those are my 1-drops. My 2-drops now, I've adapted a bit. This week, I have played the full 4 of Zerta Goblin. Once again, there's plenty of 2-drops that people have tried. I really like Zerta because, number 1, it grows Pelt Collector. Number 2, it can swing right away. If I need it, or versus some of the mono red lists, I can put a counter on it, and so it can survive the Bone Crusher Giant. And so I've really liked Zerta Goblin in that case. And if need be, if you have a Pelt Collector and 2 of these, you can grow the Pelt Collector both turns and still swing with it. One of the newer additions to the deck that I've tried is Robber of the Rich. This was mainly a meta choice at our store. We had a lot of people playing kind of these Yorion decks, the slower decks with sweepers, things like that. And so I figured a 2-drop that comes down with haste that does something, and I'll be able to empty my hand out faster, so I'll be able to trigger and get cards off the top of their library. Can screw with their Omen of the Sea, the Scries, and things like that to really make them have to think twice about what they leave on top, because I might be able to steal it. So I really like Robber in this slot. I sideboarded out versus a lot of the aggro lists because most of the time they're emptying their hands just as fast, and I have some other cards I can bring in. But because of the meta at my local store, Robber has been really, really good. The new addition to the deck with the release of Core 21 is Scavenging Ooze. Scavenging Ooze is just an all-star in these aggro lists and any green, even mid-range lists, particularly if people are playing Uro and other hits. I love Scavenging Ooze, so as you can tell, I have some of the older ones, but then I have pulled a couple of the new ones so far, so playing Scavenging Ooze and Scavenging Ooze won me several games tonight. And then the one of Galea. This was one I wasn't sure of, but I left it in as I was tweaking, adding new stuff from Core 21, making adjustments. Another hasty 2/2 come down on 2, and possibly the draw addition to be able to draw 2 cards. Relevant sometimes, so I left it in, and it actually did some work in one game for me tonight, so pretty happy with how that performed. This was one that probably is the not a surprise to anybody. Is Gruul Spellbreaker, one of my favorite cards of all time. I've loved this card and I've cast it a lot ever since it has come out. Just a really solid 3/3 or 4/4, but the hexproof has been really, really helpful on a lot of cases, and you can slap Embercleave on top of it and they can't really do anything about it. Probably would go up to the full 4 and drop the Galea, but I wanted to see how it worked tonight, and it actually went pretty well. And of course, the All-Star, one of the reasons why you play Gruul Aggro, the top of the curve is Questing Beast. Can't really say enough about this card, be able to deal with all the Planeswalkers people are playing, to be able to swing, to be able to not get blocked by all their small blockers. Fantastic Embercleave target. I love Questing Beast, I love casting it. And of course, no shock to anybody, Embercleave. Along with Questing Beast is one of the best finishers you can play when you're playing Gruul. I play the full 4 of in this particular list. I've played 3, I've played 2. Depends on the way the meta is shaking out at the store at the time, but I think at the moment, Embercleave is just really, really good. All right, and then when you get to the removal, this one might be a little bit controversial, because I'm not playing Bone Crusher Giant. The last 2 weeks I've played Gruul and have not played Bone Crusher in either list. I've played the Domri's Ambushed to be able to deal with Planeswalkers, to be able to grow some of my smaller creatures. Helps get Pelt Collector up to the 3 counter, so does Trample faster. A little bit risky, but I think many times since I play so many creatures, so many fast, hasty creatures, be able to play a 2-drop and then Domri's Ambush to be able to double spell like that, really, really good. I played the 3 of, I've played 2. I think 3 right now is a pretty good number. I was pretty happy with them tonight. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then another one that I'm trying out is Primal Might. I only got to cast it once, and it wasn't really relevant. I was already winning pretty hard at that point, so jury is still out on this. It might be better to play Bone Crusher in this instance. I've also thought about maybe Rada, but Primal Might's one I want to experiment with, being able to pump up the creature and clear out a blocker, especially being able to do something like that with Spellbreaker or Questing Beast. And then for the lands, pretty straightforward. I've got the 4 Stomping Grounds. I play 2 Castle Embereths. Not sure about this one. Again, could be Fable Passages, could just be another forest or mountain, but I've liked having 2, be able to pump up stuff when you swing. Play the 10 forests. And play, what number is it? 7? Oh, it's 8. 8 mountains. Oops, sorry. Once again, when I built this list initially, had 2 Fable Passages in it, but I have let friends, I built decks for friends and let them play it so we have enough people to play. And so I used all my Fable Passages in decks that really needed it, so I have gone without. I'll probably, with Core 21 coming out and having Fable Passage in, I'll probably put Fable Passages back in. Just having 2 of them to be able to get the double red or double green that I need in certain cases. For the sideboard, we've got additional removal with Scorching Dragonfire. I have 3 of those. Really solid against a lot of, in our meta, it's a lot of mono red. We rarely have a sacrifice player, but if you are playing against anyone with sacrifice, Scorching Dragonfire is a must, and probably if you're running into sacrifice a lot, like if you're playing on Arena or if you're able to play at your store and they play a lot of sacrifice, I think you need the full 4 of. I made the choice for 3 just because I know our local meta. And once again, because of that, 4 Shifting Ceratops, lots of control, have a tough time dealing with Ceratop. Can't be countered. Protection from blue is fantastic, and Embercleave is fantastic on that if they can't remove it. So I play the full 4 of. And like I said, we also have a ton of mono red, so I play the full 4 of. Lovestruck Beast, these I know are in the main in a lot of lists, like the adventure packages. And because I like the aggro lists when I'm keeping a lot of our mid-range and control on the back foot, I've moved them to the sideboard. But nothing really stonewalls mono red better than the Lovestruck Beast. So great card. I love it. I love casting it, but right now it's better in the sideboard. And then a couple random one-ofs because I wasn't sure what the meta would be. I know we have a Rakdos control player, so I put my the one Garrix Harbinger I had pulled in just to try it out. He wasn't there, so I left it in the sideboard. Clothis. Clothis, bring it in versus Rakdos versus some of the control lists because they might have a harder time removing it. And even, yeah, those are mainly the ones that I bring it in versus. But Scavenging Ooze, I think, maybe take the place of Clothis, but still a good one. And then I've got two walkers, mainly because I wasn't sure what to bring in. I figured maybe versus some of the control lists, but never ended up bringing them in. But Vivian, Monsters Advocate, and Garrix Unleashed. So I wasn't sure of the meta, so I had probably 4 cards in my sideboard that I don't know I would play in the future, depending on how people do. So tonight I went 3-0. We had 9 people play. Unfortunately, because it's still under COVID rules, we only ended up playing 3 rounds. So there were 2 3-0s after 3 rounds, and so I ended up getting second, which is fine. Round 1 I played versus Cycling. Tough match. He drew a lot of his Zenith Flares. Round 2 and round 3 I played versus Cavalcade Red, and once again having the ability to grow my creatures to be able to block and then basically prepare for an Alpha Strike, and Embercleave is what won me the game. Scavenging Ooze was an all-star. Lovestruck Beast was fantastic, but I ended up beating them. So for prizes tonight, since I got second, I got the non-foil promo pack. We have not gotten the Core 21 ones yet, I don't think. So we got the Ikoria ones, and for participating, our store gives out the Reliquary Tower. So I have the Reliquary Tower and then our Ikoria promo pack. So let's see what we got. I'm not going to show the code because I would like it, because I play enough Arena. All right, we've got the Ritual of Soot. Not as good now, but still a pretty good hit. For 2 and a black for a sorcery, destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less. We've got the Sprite Dragon, which is really sweet. Need to get a couple more foils of that. And last but not least, we've got Jengatha, the Wellspring. For 4 and hybrid Gruul. For a 5/5 elemental elk. No cards in your starting deck can have more than one of the same mana symbol and its mana cost, and you can tap it to add Wooburg. This cannot be spent on generic mana costs. So very appropriate that we get the Gruul Companion when we're playing Gruul. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I encourage you, if you have the cards on Arena, take it for a spin. It's a lot of fun. Obviously, I would tweak the sideboard. Some of my choices are very meta dependent, so you may want to try some different things out, but Gruul is a fun list. It's an aggressive list. Keeps people on the back foot. I think it's a great choice. Obviously, the main issue with Gruul is the land sometimes will get you. But that's the way it is. But until next time, I'm all tapped out for now.